Hello, everyone, and thank you for your interest in the Liberty Creek Restoration Project. My name is Teresa Bridges. I'm the project manager. I will be narrating this informational video to help you learn about this stormwater quality improvements project. Specifically in this video, I provide a brief introduction of the project site, its location and function. I will explain the purpose of the project, showing images of the existing conditions. I will describe the design and proposed features of the creek to accomplish stormwater quality improvements. I will go over the site access considerations and challenges and the decisions that were made to minimize staging and construction traffic. I will detail the project timeline and provide contact information for staff for any questions or concerns you may have. The scope of this project includes reshaping and stabilizing 467 linear feet of a tributary branch of the Allen Creek, running from the west within a platted public utility easement in the Fair Glen and Liberty Knolls subdivisions. The site is within a wooded area north of West Liberty Street behind the condominiums and south of Glendale Circle between the privately owned Manchester West Apartments Drive and Virginia Park. The pictures tell the story that the creek needs to be maintained, which includes clean out and dredge, replace soil erosion control facilities, maintain structural components in the creek, reshape the cross-section, and refresh protections of the nearby infrastructure. Every so often, creeks need clean-out maintenance, just like drains. Sediment needs to be dredged out, and fallen trees or debris need to be removed. The area was worked on in the 1990s, in which a portion of the creek was enclosed. Unfortunately, the stabilization facilities installed at that time, such as the geotextile fabric and gabion baskets or rock-filled wire enclosures, are failing and need to be updated with more sustainable protections. These are pictures of the culvert from the west end under the apartment drive and the retaining wall that turns the creek sharply to the south. The culvert end section is perched and will continue to erode beneath, so it needs stabilized structural support. The retaining wall is failing and needs repair or replacement. There are many areas along the creek that are experiencing severe erosion, which threatens the grade and the trees adjacent to the creek. There are many areas of over-widened creek channel and channel sections that are too narrow. There is also sanitary sewer running underneath this area, so protections surrounding this infrastructure also need to be maintained. So now that we have an understanding that the creek needs maintenance, we need to design features that restore the creek to a natural stream that functions for high flows but resists erosion. Our design professionals are experts in this field. They assessed the hydrological conditions to quantify the storm water flows that the creek needs to convey. They designed a cross-section to convey the flow and retrofit the area with sustainable slopes using standard engineering practices for natural creek design. The construction plans show the creek work in 4 areas, starting from the downstream end, then the middle area, the upstream end, and then the westernmost upstream area. In this downstream area, the plan shows the downstream pipe, a nearby property line, the larger tree removals, the 4-foot wide creek bottom, the existing and proposed top of banks, sediment pool locations, constructed riffles, riprap stabilization zones, toewood bank locations, and a potential 15-foot limit of disturbance offset line along the north side. So let me touch on some of these design features for your understanding. The toewood banks use on-site materials such as dead logs, tree stumps, root wads, and existing river gravel harvested for this reuse. The material is embedded into the bank for armoring and energy dissipation effects. Sediment pools are located where the water is expected to be slower, so we're providing the places for sediment to deposit. These locations will be documented and passed along to Public Works for regular maintenance. Riprap stabilization is needed where stormwater swales or channels outlet into the creek, and where additional protection from erosion is needed, like adjacent to the sanitary manhole in the creek bank. The constructed riffles are made of rocks and boulders. The material is constructed to create obstacles for energy dissipation and armoring effects. It is expected that some of these rocks will migrate throughout the creek over time. Another detail I want to explain, but it wasn't in the downstream area, is the cross vein. The cross vein is used where the larger stormwater pipes outlet into the creek, which will be seen in the upstream and western upstream plans. The cross veins are made of larger rocks and boulders and will direct flow while helping to dissipate energy. So knowing more about these features, we'll look at the second of 4 plan sheets of this set, and I'll again highlight the planned work. In this middle area, the plan shows the nearby property lines, the larger tree removals, the 4-foot wide creek bottom, the existing and proposed tops of banks, which may only be indicating the limit of grading or where the proposed grade meets existing grade. The term top of bank may not be an actual top of bank. Also shown then are sediment pool locations, constructed riffles, the Toewood Bank location, and the potential 15-foot limit of disturbance line along the north side. This is the third plan sheet. In this upstream area, the plan shows the subdivision boundary between Fair Glen and Liberty Knoll. There are also a couple of nearby property lines, and we show the larger tree removals. We have the upstream storm pipe that encloses the creek for about 240 feet, the 4-foot wide creek bottom, but at the upstream end here, it starts as a 5-foot wide creek bottom as it comes out of the storm pipe and transitions to 4 feet wide. This is also one of the locations there will be a cross vein feature for additional energy dissipation. Also shown are the existing and proposed top of bank. We show sediment pool locations, constructed riffles, and the riprap stabilization zones where storm pipes outlet into the creek, as well as the area surrounding the sanitary manhole. We're showing the Toewood Bank location and the potential 15-foot limit of disturbance line along the north side. Here is the last sheet, the westernmost upstream area. This sheet has been oriented so north is up. This plan shows the property boundary between Manchester West Apartments and Fair Glen subdivision, and also one nearby lot line. Here are the larger tree removals. We have the upstream culvert pipe from Manchester West and the 5-foot wide creek bottom. This is the other location where there will be a cross vein feature for energy dissipation and flow redirection. And we also show existing and proposed tops of banks. Then in the creek, we have 18-inch ledge rocks. One will be used to structurally support the culvert end section. Others are installed with adjacent boulders and river rocks, and scour pools will naturally form. And there is also Toewood Bank location, and lastly, the potential limit for disturbance. This will be adjusted in the field as we determine the access route. Speaking of access route, it's time to address site access. How do we get there when there isn't a road? As we looked at site access, there were several considerations. In no particular order, we assessed the slopes, utilities in the way, clear space, distance from a road. We also looked at the amount of personal and/or community disruption, whether there were existing easement rights and amount of tree clearing and cost. We looked at 4 potential points of access: Manchester West driveway through a side yard backyard off Glendale Court, through side yards off Glendale Circle, and from Virginia Park. Manchester West Apartments driveway was considered for its close proximity to the construction and minimal disruption to Fair Glen and Liberty Knoll neighborhood. But its steep slope, heavy vegetation, lack of existing easement, and multifamily residential driveway use made it infeasible. Access point number 2 is off of Glendale Court, which is a private cul-de-sac off of Glendale Circle. There is an existing public utilities easement indicated in the plat. It has a gentler slope than other access points and fewer trees to clear and is closer to the westernmost upstream area. Unfortunately, it is through a landscaped side yard and the cul-de-sac pavement may need repair at the end of the project. Access point 3 is off of Glendale Circle, which is public right-of-way. There is an existing public utilities easement indicated in the plat. It is steeper than other access points, but more trees to clear. Unfortunately, it is also through a landscaped side yard, but also is directly over a sanitary sewer. Access point number 4 through Virginia Park is city property and therefore has permission for access, but it also has some slope challenges. Excuse me. We also had to consider that Ann Arbor Public Schools and/or Parks and Rec have programming on the soccer field and/or baseball field in the spring. However, we worked out with the Parks Department that the project will have the invasive species removed along the western and southern borders so the contractor can use that space for staging while the park continues to be in use. The space will be restored at the end of the project with screening landscape. Unfortunately, it is a long haul road for the contractor, so it will take more materials to establish and more time throughout the project to traverse. The route will be adjusted to avoid trees as much as possible. So the determination was made to provide access from Glendale Court and Virginia Park, which uses city property for the majority of disruption, and to provide hundreds of plantings in creek restoration and woodland mitigation. The project timeline is as follows. Over the last 2 years, we designed the creek restoration project and spent the last year getting through the state's EGLE permitting process. EGLE held a public hearing in the fall, and now we are going through the bidding and award phase of the construction contract. At this time, we're also providing information to the stakeholders for their awareness. Construction will begin in March so the trees can be down before bat nesting season. Construction will continue through the spring and into the summer, slated for substantial completion by July 1st. Should you have questions or concerns, please contact me, Teresa Bridges, the Engineering Project Manager. My contact information is listed here. Others who have been working on this project are the design consultants, Hubble Roth and Clark, in collaboration with Jennifer Lawson, the city's water quality manager, who brought this project forward through the capital improvements program, and Jasmine Isaac Ofori is the project community engagement specialist, helping us bring this information to you. Thank you again for your interest in the Liberty Street Creek Restoration Project. The end.